Welcome to part 2 of our B44.2 build, and we're laying in some differential lube on the out-drive long shaft, and I'm going to go ahead and drop in my sanded differential ring on top of this. And you need to realize that because this is a four-wheel drive buggy, we're going to have to do this step twice. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in the auto drive short, and I'm going to go ahead and add in that differential lube. And here's a part where you could actually do some modifications too. You could actually drop in some of the stealth lube too if you like. In the kit you're included just the regular differential lube, but I have seen some racers use the stealth lube, and I just kind of decided to use the practical route and just decide to use like the lube provided. And I really haven't really seen a whole lot of difference, but just once again it's up to the driver, so whatever they prefer. And here we go, we're going to go ahead and build this twice. So you saw me complete that one step, and we'll go ahead and complete out the second step. And I'm just kind of being rather generous with the differential lube, and I'm only generous with this because I don't want the lube to dry out, and I don't really relish going back in there a second time to lay in or re-lube it. Next, I'm going ahead and dropping in my bearing. This is just a 3/16 by 5/16 bearing. So dropping both of those in. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up the carbide differential balls. And there should be 12 of the smaller balls, or in this kit there should be 24 of the smaller balls. And the larger balls are going to be used for the differential thrust balls. And also the larger ones, there's actually fewer of them in there too. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that gear in, and I'm just going to press this between the ball bearing, making sure that this is laid in nice and solid first. You want to have this gear placed in just right. You don't want to adjust this gear after you're placed in the carbide ball bearings, because if any kind of adjustments you might lose a ball bearing. So my advice is to get this part locked down, set up correctly, and you should be all good. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and grab my differential balls, and the way I'm doing this is I'm squeezing out some differential lube, and it's going to hold this to the ball bearing. So it's kind of messy on the pit mat, but I'm not scraping up the differential ball bearings, and that's the advantage to this. Also, I'm working on the magnetic cowl RC pit mat, which is a lifesaver because you see me drop one of the differential balls and it's still staying in place. Now, some RC car builders swear by using tweezers, and for the longest time I was using tweezers, but I found that I dropped the differential balls just as much as if I were using this approach. And plus, the nice benefit of using this approach is that I'm not scraping up or scarring up the differential balls before I put them in there. But ideally, you could do whatever technique works best for you. I just kind of like this technique because it's very quick, very easy, and then if I didn't have enough lubrication, I could always just add in some more differential grease in there. There we go. And I don't want to put too much grease that I clog up everything. Putting enough grease so that the differential balls stay inside that gear. And that is the big secret. So once you have enough grease in there, you see that ideally how the balls would travel up there with it. There we are. There we go. And when you get to this step, it's important just to be patient. There is I admit there's a compelling urge to feel rushed as you're doing this step, but just make sure that you get all the balls in there and you don't lose any of the differential balls. And you really don't want to see me do that one twice, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you that what the next step is really just to drop in the 3/16 by 5/16 bearing. And I'm going to go ahead and you see me drop a ball in there. So I'm going to go ahead and add that back in. There we go. Grab that out drive in that outer gear in there. There we are. And everything feels really nice. I'm just going to leave that over there. There we go. I'm going to do the same for the second one. So one of these differentials is the front, and then the other differential is the rear. Next major trick is the thrust bearing, and my way of doing this is putting in some of the black grease on there, and then I'm using the black grease to place it on there. Once again, you could use tweezers. I've also seen some RC guys have special build tools for this, but just a little manual dexterity goes a long way. Also, I highly recommend working over a magnetic pit mat, or if you don't have a magnetic pit mat, there is really just nothing wrong with working over a container like a margarine bowl, for example. It's a good one, or a paper plate if you don't have anything else, or a pit mat towel, just so that if the ball bearing slides off, something down there would catch it. So I'm also just dropping in some additional black grease on here, and you should note that you should not put in too much black grease. I'm just putting enough so that the differential balls stay in place. And I'm going to grab the ball bearing ring and just drop it right on top, and just making sure that everything's nice compact in there, but not so messy that the balls are out of alignment. So I'm just making sure that all the balls are just nicely compacted in there, so that the thrust bearing is good to go. And once again, you have to build the thrust bearing twice, and just be patient here as you're dropping this one in. Once again, it's you might feel compelled to rush or jump through the step. I would highly suggest just take a deep breath, just relax. Things tend to get from bad to worse. Like if you're trying to put one ball on there and then it keeps falling off, my suggestion is just to just take a moment, take a break, come back and attack the problem again. I highly suggest just putting in enough grease on there so that the balls stick. It's okay to err on the side of a little messiness, as you could wipe away some of the grease, but don't put enough so much grease that it hinders the balls from staying in. Also, I'd like to just add a little bit more grease when I put in that top washer in. There we are. Now we have the out drive set, and we also have the thrust bearing set. Now all that's left is we'd have to just screw everything together. So I'm going to put in the thrust spring in there, and because we have this the left, or not left, sorry, the front and the back, we need to do this twice. There we go. So I'm going to grab one, and I'm going to just drop in my thrust bearing in there, or the thrust bolt in there. So I'm just dropping that in. And I apologize, I'm out of frame for the camera. I'm just more worried with not dropping the differential so that it falls apart. And I'm going to try to reframe this so that when I do this the second time, it's going to look a little bit better. Just so you know, when I'm pushing in on one side, I like to use a hex wrench to push in. You could sometimes this ruins the hex wrench tip, so I'm actually using the cheaper hex wrench when I'm pushing this in. Some pros actually have special shaped tools to do this part, but this works out fine for me. So I'm just kind of pushing in so that the spring would catch. You don't want to screw in so tight so that everything's very tight in at this point, because you still want to go back at some point to adjust the final build. So I'm just doing like a quarter turn, and I'm just making sure that the differential is going to work pretty good. So this is a ball differential, and as you notice, as I'm turning one side, the other side turns the opposite direction, and when that happens, you know if you assembled the ball differential correctly. So I'm going to show you again. I'm going to just go ahead and, whoops, everything's kind of falling apart. Just making sure that if this happens to you, just make sure that the carbide balls are still in place. There we go, dropping in the differential spring again, and dropping in the screw cap, so just making sure that that point would hold. I'm applying some pressure on the opposite side so that as I put in the thrust bolt, it would catch, and that's the whole point, is you want the thrust bolt to catch and stay set. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and apply some more pressure. Just do a few quarter turns, and everything looks like it's set up, and that looks great. So we see that it's turning in the opposite direction, and that's exactly what I want. Thanks for watching, and remember, everything matters.